Welcome back to Extra Holiday Games. I'm Extra Holiday, and we're talking about pets, specifically cats, but also dogs. And I like them both. But if you're wondering, I don't know that I've actually ever said this on the channel, I'm more of a cat person. There are various things that I don't necessarily love about dogs, particularly the fact that they always have to be right next to you, and it's the especially egregious offenders have to be like touching you at all times, and that's annoying to me. So just like I'd like just a little bit of space, okay? Like I don't need to have you on top of me 24/7. Whereas cats, typically, again, you know, there are examples of both atypically behaving cats and atypically behaving dogs, but typically cats will basically come to you when they feel like coming to you, which is generally either when they're hungry or when they actually feel like, okay, I could use some affection now, you know? Like I was talking about Annie in the last episode, the cat I had, you know, over at my parents' place. And she was just like that. She was like, okay, most of the time she would leave you alone, but if you sat down, she might hop up in your lap, lay down and stuff. But also, if she did that and then you were like, okay, I have to go somewhere, and then you just lifted her up and set her down, or even if you just took her off your lap and continued sitting there, like she'd get the hint. She'd be like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go somewhere else, lay down somewhere else. Dogs, not so much. Like they spend 2 seconds away from you and they're immediately like, okay, need to be back on you right now. Also, dogs are louder. Like, I don't know that I've ever heard a cat meow as loud as a dog barks. And it doesn't even matter the size of the dog. They pretty much all bark with the same volume, it's just pitch that changes. Like, I've lived with both big dogs and small dogs, so I can confirm this. They're pretty much all, they're all loud when they bark, and dogs tend to bark quite a bit, in my experience. Like, I've had 1 or 2 dogs that were pretty quiet, right? But even then, like, when they did bark, it was pretty loud. And, like, they did still bark occasionally. The cat's only gonna meow when it needs something from you, as opposed to a dog who's just gonna bark at anything and everything that it thinks might be a threat. Even if it's just like the wind blowing. Or you could be like my parents' current dog, Neva, she likes to play with rocks. She'll like roll them around with her nose and stuff. She'll like try to bite at them, and the whole time she'll be barking at it. Just barking at a rock. For seemingly no reason other than she's just excited to be playing with it. And it's kind of cute, but it's still also very loud. But if she's playing with rocks, she's playing with rocks outside, which means, you know, there's at least a wall between her and me usually when I'm over there. Neva's a good dog, though. I like Neva. How did I not get in the pipe? Alright, well. Yeah, Neva's great. I do like Neva. She is probably one of the favorite dogs that I've been around for an extended period of time. And there's also There's also others that I've had in the family. Like I had, well, prior to Neva was Bandit. Bandit was pretty good. He was a beagle. And he wasn't very, he wasn't very particularly, even in his younger years, he wasn't particularly energetic, I guess. And that was fine with me, because, you know, he wasn't, I mean, one of the kind of sticking points about Neva is that she always wants to play. And granted, she's not very old, so she's still got a lot of that puppy playfulness in her, but yeah, she always wants to play, whereas Bandit was, you know, he's like, you could leave him be and he would more or less be fine. Like, he'd still want to be in the area with you, but he'd be fine. Didn't really have a whole lot of complaints about Bandit. And there was Kenai, who was, you know, Bandit's friend for quite a while. And he was great. Yeah. He was a chocolate lab. And he was just really friendly. I mean, he was also one of those dogs that, like, felt like he needed to be on top of you all the time. But, you know, he was still not the pushiest about it. Oh my god. Somehow I just need to hold right. That's all I need to do. But I keep pressing right to be like, okay, I'm just gonna get in the tube, and then it doesn't happen. Prior to Kenai, there was Maximilian, or Max as we called him. And he was pretty neat. He was also a beagle. My parents really like beagles and labs. But Max was also a beagle, and he was a bit louder and more playful than Bandit ever was. And a bit more territorial too, but he never hurt anyone. I don't really remember. Basically, we're getting into the deep childhood here. And I do remember Max, I just don't remember all that much about him. And then prior to Max, well, kind of at the same time as Max, was Mozart. She was a black lab, I do believe. Yeah, black lab. She was great. She was maybe the most docile of the dogs I've had the pleasure of being around. Yeah, she was fantastic. And she just kind of, hung around and minded her own. There's kind of a pattern here. You might be able to tell as to which dogs I like best. Generally the ones that are not always in your face, and the ones that aren't loud. That's the biggest thing, right? Is dogs that are loud and dogs that constantly have to be on top of you. Those are my biggest things that I don't like about dogs. Which is why the dogs that I'm currently living with, I'm not as much a fan of. I mean, they're still great. You know, they're well intentioned at least, but they're definitely not my favorites. But I won't go into any more of that because, you know, I don't like to dwell on the negative, you know. As for cats, yeah, I've only really had well, that's not true actually. We had Annie, and we tried getting other cats, but the thing you gotta know about where I grew up is we were in the middle of the woods. And I don't mean oh man, there's a line of trees between us and the next neighbor. I mean you couldn't see the next neighbor. And we were literally within walking distance of our home was dozens of acres of just government-owned forest. So, yeah, we were in the middle of the woods. You know, basically all four sides of our house surrounded by trees. So, the thing about having outdoor pets in an area like that is that you kind of, if they're not particularly cautious pets, I did it again. If they're not particularly cautious, then you kind of lose them to the wild animals out in the area. Because we have a lot of those out there. I mentioned rabbits before. But, you know, where there's rabbits, there's going to be things that eat rabbits, like coyotes and cougars and bears. So, what I'm trying to get at is, we tried to have other cats at some point because I like cats. And at the time, Annie wasn't quite as friendly. She pretty much just kept to herself. So I was like, oh, I want to, being a youngin'. And I was like, oh, I want a cat of my own. So there were a couple of cats we got. Both of them disappeared. And my parents told me that they ran away. But I think we all know that that's a lie. I mean, it might be kind of true. But also, in that area, you'd know what's going to happen to a cat that runs away from home. I mean, if they're lucky, they'll get found by someone else, like another human being, but more likely they're not going to get found at all by a human. So yeah, that's what happened to those two. Didn't have them long. Had some hamsters too. They also didn't last long. Not because they ran away or anything. Just because... I don't know. Don't know why. Except in one case, but I don't feel like talking about that right now. So, yeah, that's basically my history with pets. I guess to be fully exhaustive, there is one other pet that I'm living with right now. Her name is Trisket, and she is a tortoise. I think I mentioned her on a stream, not by name, but I think I mentioned our tortoise friend Trisket, and I like her. She seems neat. But, it kind of makes sense, right? Like, a tortoise is a pet that isn't going to make a lot of noise and isn't going to try to be on top of you all the time. So, yeah, it kind of makes sense that I would like it, no? And I think she likes me, too. Because there have been a couple of instances where I walked into the room where her tank was, and she, sprinted about as fast as a tortoise could sprint towards me. Presumably just to say hello. But she is quite friendly. She's about the size of my palm, in case you're wondering, because I know tortoises and turtles can vary quite a bit in size, but this one, Trisket's about the size of a palm. I guess I should say her shell is, because the shell is most of her, but I can still pick her up with one hand, which I did have to do when I was looking after her and the dogs, which I did for a bit. Because one of the things Trisket gets every other day She gets a soak. She doesn't, in her tank, she doesn't really have a pool to soak in. She's got a water bowl that she can fit in. But it's not really super deep. So one thing that my aunt typically does for Trisket is every other day she'll fill up a tub with water and she'll grab Trisket and put her in the tub just to sit for 15 minutes or so. And so when she was away, I had to do that. And gotta say, it was my first time ever handling a tortoise, and I don't think I did too poorly. She seemed fine when it was all said and done. So, I think I did an okay job with her. Okay, just hold right here. Cool. Alright. Why? Why did it hop over so far? Ugh. Okay. Alright. Well, perhaps there will be more tortoise talk next time. But, as for this episode, that's a wrap. Am I not totally enough?